me to come to you on the water. A reading from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 14, verse 22 to 33. After the crowd was satisfied, Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side, while he dismissed the crowd. And after he had dismissed the crowds, he went up into the hills by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone. But the boat by this time was many furlongs distance from the land, beaten by the waves, for the wind was against them. And in the fourth watch of the night he came to them, walking on the sea. But when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified, saying, "It is a ghost," and they cried out for fear. But immediately he spoke to them, saying, "Take heart, it is I. Have no fear." And Peter answered him, "Lord, if it is you, bid me come to you on the water." He said, "Come." So Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water and came to Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid. And beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me." Jesus immediately reached out his hand and caught him, saying to him, "Oh, you of little faith, why did you doubt?" And when they got into the boat, the wind ceased, and those in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God." The Gospel of the Lord. A story is told of this man who was walking near a creek. All of a sudden, he dropped to the creek, and while he was going down, he was held by a branch, and when he was hanging on the branch,
He cried out, "Help! Help me!" And there was no voice coming. He called again, "Help!" And in the third time, he heard a voice saying, "I have heard your voice. Kindly drop yourself. I will be holding you down the cliff." And when this man was still hanging, he doubted that voice and he asked again, "Hello there, anybody can help me other than the voice that I'm hearing?" And that is the situation in which sometimes we find ourselves in. When we hear the voice of God calling and saying, "I am," sometimes we doubt that voice. In the 19th week of the 100th time, we get our readings, this kind of explanation of God's trusting in God. And again also, understanding of who God is. And my question today is, do you know God? Have you ever seen God? And where do we see God? In the first reading, Elijah is in his climax of stress, distress, and challenges. He has gone through a moment of defeating the 450 Baal prophets, and he killed them. And then he fled away because Jezebel wants to kill him. And when he's in Mount Sinai, Mount Horeb, he's there with a lot of stress, and he's even calling upon God to take his life. And then at that moment, God appears. God comes to him. And then when he comes to him, the first thing, it is through thunder, the so-called natural phenomena that really pronounce of who God is. And then, at the moment of calmness and voice of God, that is the moment that he sees God. In the second reading, St. Paul is experiencing human challenges, problems and difficulties, and is really also distressed. And he feels that, oh, it's like, is God still with me in the journey? And in the gospel, the 14th chapter of Matthew, it all began with the death of John the Baptist, and then Jesus Christ wanted to go in a solid place to stay. But then all of a sudden, the crowds, and then feeding of the 5,000. And when the 5,000 had already been fed, Jesus Christ dismissed the crowds, and then he also questioned the disciples to get into the boat, go to the other side. Then Jesus Christ goes alone to the mountain to pray. In this gospel, it gives us around 4 areas of reflection that will remind us or give us an idea of our today's reflection. The first one is the context in which we get this understanding. The feeding of the 5,000, dismissing them, and the disciples going on with the boat. The second one, the disciples are alone in the boat, and the boat is experiencing challenges of turbulence. The third one, Jesus appears to them and they think that he's a ghost. And the fourth one, when Jesus Christ has entered back into the boat, it comes and everything is in order. The disciples represent our Christian life. The boat is the church. And the church that is going through moments of turbulence, moments of challenges, moments of persecution. At a time when we don't even feel whether Jesus Christ is with us. We think that he has abandoned us. And then the experience of Jesus Christ walking on water is a moment of God revealing himself. As in Mount Horeb, he revealed himself to Elijah, he revealed himself to Moses, and in that mountain he says, I am. In the waters, Jesus Christ mentioned the word, I am. I am God. Don't fear. And then when he comes into the boat, everything is calm and the journey continues. And this is our Christian life. When we are in our Christian life and we are in the church and we are walking with God, Jesus Christ in the church, we experience turbulence and sometimes we forget whether Jesus Christ is with us. But when we allow, we invite Jesus Christ in our lives, the turbulence come and we are able to experience a smooth flow. And this is the message that we get today. But the question is, do we still believe and trust in the voice of God? Because when Jesus Christ talks to Peter, Peter is doubting whether it is truly Jesus. And at the moment of doubting sinks the question of whether we are able to recognize God in his creation. Number two, whether we are able to hear and listen to the voice of God. And number three, whether in the church we recognize Jesus Christ flowing with us. And number four, do we trust that in the church we experience the liturgy? We see Jesus Christ in the Word. We meet also him in the miracle of the Eucharist when he transforms the body, the bread and the wine into body and blood of Christ. And then we need faith to trust in him, even at the moment that we are in turbulence and we are experiencing difficulties in our lives. My dear brothers and sisters, in these times, man has killed God because he thinks that God is still not with us when he experiences difficulties. Unlike Nietzsche, that philosopher who says that God is dead, not just but is God is dead, but because thinks the concept of God cannot be verified by scientific discoveries. And the confusion of language of understanding who God is brings us to the confusion of being able to get the true revelation of God in our modern time. How do we get the true revelation in our modern time? God reveals us through the natural creation. The creation of God is so wonderful and it reveals his beauty, his being. Then through the word and then through the sacraments. In the church, as we go through these moments of difficulty and turbulence of the world, even at moments of persecution of the church, moments of diseases, moments of every kind of turbulence, God is still alive. God is here with us. What we need is faith and trust in him so that we may be able to see him, and he's going to lift us even when we are sinking. Are you sinking? Call for God. He's all over. Let him embrace you in the sacramental life and in the journey that we are following. Jesus Christ continues to reveal himself to the disciples and to us even today. The 19th Sunday of Ordinary Time, the Sunday of God revealing himself, Jesus Christ revealing himself as true God, just the way in the Old Testament God himself revealed himself through the natural phenomena and the voice that came from him. Remember, at the moment of calmness, the voice of God was heard. Take moments of silence and listen to the voice of God, because the greatest challenge today again is the noise of the world, which we think that in the noise there is where Jesus is, but in the silence, moment of silence, Jesus Christ, God himself, reveals himself to us. Get the scriptures, get to the moment of silence, and as Jesus Christ, go to pray, and there you will see God. May God, might God bless you all, and as you celebrate the 19th Sunday of the Ordinary Time, in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.